Good evening, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are coming to you with a live broadcast because there is a report from the New York Times that the Supreme Leader of Iran has ordered a direct Iranian attack on Israel. Not necessarily today, mind you. We're not saying it's going to happen now or in the next 3 hours or something. But the New York Times is reporting that the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has ordered a direct attack on Israel in response for Israel's assassination of Hamas's political leader early this morning in Tehran, Iran. So we wanted to bring you an update on the situation. You are looking at a live AFP video of Haifa, Israel. So I just thought I would show that while we were discussing this. But again, not saying it's going to happen now, not saying it's going to happen in the next day. I would assume it would happen, if it's going to happen, I would assume it would happen relatively soon, since it's supposed to be a retaliatory strike. But we'll have to see what happens. Also, something else to keep an eye out is Hezbollah, a militant group slash political party, powerful militant group and political party in Lebanon. They are also expected to launch some sort of strike on Israel, some sort of retaliation on Israel, because yesterday Israel assassinated a top Hezbollah commander in Beirut, in suburban Beirut. So we were already expecting Hezbollah, which is majorly supported by Iran, to launch some sort of retaliation on Israel. But now the New York Times is reporting that the Iranian Supreme Leader has ordered a direct retaliation by Iran on Israel. So could we see some kind of joint retaliation where Iran launches a strike as well at the same time as Hezbollah in Lebanon launches a strike, and maybe some other Iranian proxies like the Houthis in Yemen? We'll have to see. But we're going to bring you a live update here and take some comments and questions from you guys, and we'll let you know what is happening. I want to say a quick thanks for your support to Walter Beasley and Pixel Panda, also Gordon Gott and Saza from Norway, and Marnie and Coffee Beard, and Chris Canada, Quebec City, and Schaff. And let's say thanks to our moderators, who are the ones who actually allow us to have chat rooms. We couldn't have chat rooms without our moderators. So big thanks to our moderators. We have moderating right now. Ruth Krafasi is there moderating. Thank you, Ruth, very much. Sabrina is moderating. Thank you, Sabrina. And Sarah55. Thank you, Sarah. We also have Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X. And also we have, over there on Twitch, we have moderating David Green, McBritches, Papa Bear, and Surly Dev. And thanks to A Moment of Lovely for the support on Twitch. And also thanks to, got to just thank our Facebook moderators here. Thanks so much to our Facebook moderators. We have Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson, and Christina Neal, all moderating there. And John A., the moderators can answer your question over there on YouTube. Thank you, John A. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make sure I'm not missing any breaking news. So one thing I've seen reported that I want people to be aware of before we get into all of this is I've seen some reports on social media that some airspace over Iran might be closed, and some people are thinking, oh, maybe that means they're going to attack Israel soon. So I want to show you a post that Faytux News posted, who I follow. So, oops, let me show you this. So you can see Global Military Info, which is also an account I follow. They're reliable. They say notices, NOTAM, which is, it used to be Notice to Airmen, but I don't know if they changed the abbreviation. Yeah, Notice to Airmen, or Notice to Air Missions. Notice to Air Missions. Notice to Air Missions have been issued in Iran. At this time, there are no exercises scheduled. And so anyways, you can see this says flight suspended, and this says military action will take place within a circle. But before we get on to this detail here, I want to show you what Faytuk said. Faytuk's News, who I follow, said, this is not related to a possible Iranian retaliation as far as I'm aware. The restrictions are for a small area in Tehran, and it lasts while the supreme leader is scheduled to lead Haniyeh's funeral prayer, according to Fardad Farazad, who is a journalist. Nothing will happen before the funeral. That's what Faytuk's News thinks. So my point is, I wouldn't. Yeah, here's what Fardad Farazad said, who is a journalist with. This is Iran International, 24-hour language, Persian language news channel. So he says that the air restriction is for a small, about a mile area around the University of Tehran from 6 a.m. to noon Tehran time. That is when the supreme leader is scheduled to lead in the funeral prayer for Ismail Haniyeh. So I wouldn't read too much into at this point this notice to air missions that has come out in Iran. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay. But I wanted to begin with this with the New York Times report, what they're saying about what the supreme leader has ordered. Now that's not confirmed, but they are reporting that. And let me show you something else. Something else I want to show you as well. This is from Jason Brodsky, who's a Middle East analyst. I just saw that he posted this. Aleph reposted this as well. Jason Brodsky said, I understand that notice to air missions, airspace closing, that kind of thing, have been issued in Iran. But worth noting, the retaliation for past operations by Israel occurred after the funeral. See, for example, in April, when Iranian Revolutionary Guard commander Mohammad Reza Zahidi was killed. The funeral for the Hamas leader is tomorrow. So you have some people with knowledge of the area who believe that there won't be a retaliation until after the funeral, which is tomorrow Iran time. Iran time right now, I think it's around, they're like on a half-hour difference thing. It's, 1:30 in the morning, something? 2:33 a.m. Iran time right now. All right, so I thought that was important. Not to say, look, I don't know when anything will happen. Maybe Iran, if they're going to strike, will do it sooner rather than later. That I don't know. But yeah, it's 2:03 a.m. in Israel, as you can see on the screen there. But you never know. You never know. Hey, really quick, thank you to Eric Rams, our member, and Ada Gedin and Joner Games, and Eli Outside. Eli says, why announce your attack? Give your enemy a chance to prepare. Well, look, it's not a surprise to Israel. They haven't said, like, here's what we're specifically going to do. Israel knows. I would think Israel would expect Iran to retaliate. So a news story coming out saying that the supreme leader has ordered a direct strike is not a big surprise. It's not very newsworthy to Israel, put it that way. Now, if they came out and said, if there was a report that came out and said the supreme leader ordered this attack at this time coming from this direction, that's different. If that makes sense. Thank you, Eli. But Israel would be expecting some sort of retaliation from Iran is quite likely. Hey, thanks very much, Eli Outside. I appreciate that. in terms of the timing, we'll get it. Maybe we'll get into. I don't want to get this right this second, but I believe that Israel gave a little bit more of a specific. Sorry, I believe Iran gave a bit more of a specific heads up when they did their attack. I think it was in April when they launched a lot of missiles and drones. But I'll have to look that up. But first, let me get to what the New York Times is reporting, and we'll go from there. So the New York Times has a report which says that the Iranian supreme leader has ordered a direct attack on Israel, and I'll give you a quote from the New York Times. The New York Times reports that Iran's supreme leader has issued an order for Iran to strike Israel directly in retaliation for the killing in Tehran of Hamas's leader Ismail Haniyeh. And by the way, that happened reportedly early this morning, around 2 in the morning Iran time. And the New York Times says they got this from 3 Iranian officials briefed on the order. And just a couple other details the New York Times is reporting. Oh, by the way, so the New York Times says in the April attack, when Iran launched hundreds of missiles and drones on Israel at Israel, they telegraphed that well in advance. So the New York Times says it's not clear how forcefully Iran will respond, and whether it will calibrate its attack to steer clear of escalation. I mean, you could imagine Iran, for example, giving Israel a more specific heads up, as I was discussing when I talked about Eli outside our members, our viewers quote, our viewers comment. But yeah, so we don't, how big a response will this be? Will it be telegraphed in advance? We don't know, and the report doesn't say that. But the New York Times says that the supreme leader instructed military commanders and the army to prepare plans both for an attack on Israel and a defense in the event the war expands and Israel or the U.S. strikes Iran. And there's an interesting quote in here, and we'll talk about this. The New York Times spoke to the Iran director of their international crisis group, who I assume is an expert in the area, Ali Khamenei, who said they said analysts said Iran sees retaliation as necessary for both taking revenge for the killing of Mr. Haniyeh, but also deterrence against Israel killing other powerful enemies like the head of Hezbollah or the commander of Iran's Quds forces. And the expert who I mentioned, Ali Khamenei, said Iran likely believes it has no other choice than to retaliate, to deter further Israeli attacks, defend its sovereignty, and preserve its credibility in the eyes of its regional partners. So the point is that, and I think something worth keeping in mind is, not only might Iran want to respond just because they feel like, no, you have to respond if this attack happens on your soil, but they might want to deter Israel from doing this kind of thing in the future. Remember, in the last 2 days, there have been 2 very provocative Israeli assassinations. Let's assume that the assassination of the Hamas political leader in Iran, in Tehran, overnight was done by Israel. Israel has not commented on that. They often don't comment when there is an assassination carried out by the Mossad intelligence unit, but they would certainly be the most likely culprit. So let's assume Israel did do this. Let's assume Israel did do this. In the last 2 days, you have had 2 very provocative, prominent, big assassinations by Israel. Both with Iran involved. In the one yesterday, Israel struck a building in suburban Beirut, which is, I mean, Hezbollah, the militant political party, military organization political party, Hezbollah, which is supported by Iran, they are based in Lebanon, but and Israel and Hezbollah have been launching strikes back and forth, smaller strikes back and forth on each other since October 7th happened, basically. But it's quite provocative for Israel not just to launch a strike on Hezbollah forces just over the Lebanon border, but to attack Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. That's a huge deal. And what did they do? They killed a top commander, one of the top commanders in Hezbollah, who was close to the leader of Hezbollah. And that's tied to Iran because Iran is a huge supporter of Hezbollah. So, like the huge supporter of Hezbollah. So that happened. And then, I think less than 24 hours later, but just then early this morning, Israel launches a strike and it kills the political leader of Hamas when he's visiting Tehran, Iran. And reportedly, he was staying in a Revolutionary Guards like secure housing place. Revolutionary Guards is an armed force in Iran. So they launch a strike on the capital of Iran and kill this Hamas leader who was a guest, who was there in Iran for the inauguration of the Iranian president. So that's two assassinations, highly provocative, one in Tehran and one of a leader in Hezbollah, which is a Iran proxy force, basically. So, and that's just like basically in one day that happened. So, clearly it's embarrassing for Iran, as many analysts have pointed out, and I believe some of you have said. But, you could I certainly, when people say Iran might want to do something for deterrence, I mean, I would think Iran, it's commonly said in these kind of cases, well, Iran doesn't want to escalate too much because they don't want a regional war, and so maybe they want to do something that looks like they're doing something, but it's not that escalatory. The thing about this, though, I mean, just on the face of it, it seems like there might be a risk that Iran thinks like, wow, we're looking like incredibly weak right now. Israel's just assassinating our people and people tied to us and people being our guests and our proxy people. And they're doing this in the capital of Iran, in the capital of Lebanon. And like, where does this stop? We got to send a message. So I do wonder if the Iranian response might be bigger than people are thinking, because, I mean, this risks making them look really weak. And it really is like an in-your-face thing to do two of these back to back. So, I don't know what'll happen here. I don't know what will happen. But, these are two big assassinations right in Iran's face of very important people, and by Israel within like 24 hours. So, I certainly could see Iran wanting to do something to deter if they're capable of carrying out something like that. Obviously, there's big risk in doing so, but maybe they won't. So what can I say? But we'll have to see what happens. All right, so I want to read some comments from you guys. Jeff Tumlin, our viewer, thinks Iran is weak. Let's see here. Let me check for updates here. Hold on a second. Random username says Iran has the right to defend itself. Now, just to be clear, the reason that Israel killed the Hezbollah leader is Israel claimed that the Hezbollah leader, one of the things they claimed is that the Hezbollah top commander was responsible for a rocket that landed in Israel-controlled Golan Heights on Saturday and killed 12 children and teenagers. But they also, in their explanation, listed other grievances they had with this Hezbollah commander. We talked about that yesterday. Maybe I can read that again when I get a chance. And then Israel killed the political leader of Hamas, but that, of course, is Israel doing that in retaliation for October 7th, the October 7th massacre in which Hamas forces went into Israel and killed over 1,000 Israelis and took over 200 people hostage. So I just want to clarify, that Israel would say that both of these assassinations were done in retaliation. Oh, hey guys, look at what Global Military Info said. So Global Military Info, an account I follow, had pointed out about an hour ago that notices to air missions had been issued in Iran, flight restrictions. And you might look at that and say, whoa, does that mean they're planning some sort of attack in the coming hours? But some others have mentioned that these are very limited flight restrictions that seem to be focused on flight restrictions around where the supreme leader of Iran is going to be speaking, I believe, giving, what was it exactly? Is it the funeral in the morning for Ismail Haniyeh? Is that what it was? Let me go back to Faytux. No, sorry. Fardad Farazad, journalist with Iran International. He said the flight restriction is for a roughly 1 mile area around the University of Tehran from 6 a.m. to noon Tehran time. This is when the supreme leader is scheduled to lead the Ismail Haniyeh's funeral prayer. Anyways, Global Military Info said, thank you for all the help in understanding this notice to air missions. It is believed that this notice to air missions is for Khamenei leading the prayer over the Ismail Haniyeh funeral prayer. Iran is expected to issue notice to air missions again prior to their retaliation against Israel. The point is that, of these, I assume is something like, if Iran's going to carry out some strikes from Iran towards Israel, they're not going to want a lot of planes flying around. So I wouldn't read too much into the notices to air missions, the NOTAMs. Rocky Coast says they don't want to shoot down their own commercial airliners again. All right, so I'm going to check your comments. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any updates here. I'm kind of like constantly checking for updates. Okay, hold on a second here. Oh, I just saw something. Let's check this out. Here is I just want to show you something. This is from the Supreme Leader's website, Khamenei.ir. This is literally the Supreme Leader of Iran's website. And if you go there and you translate it, what you get is this. It's like a letter, but it says the text of the website publishes the text of the condolence statement. issued by the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Imam Khamenei, on July 31st, following the martyrdom of the head of the political bureau of the Hamas movement, following the assassination carried out by Israel in Tehran. And I just want to point this out. He says, the brave and prominent Palestinian Mujahid leader, Mr. Ismail Haniyeh, departed to meet God at dawn today and bereaved the great resistance front. The criminal and terrible terrorist Israel assassinated our dear guest in our home, and it broke our hearts, but it also prepared for itself a harsh punishment. It prepared for itself a harsh punishment. We consider it our duty to avenge his blood in this bitter and difficult incident which occurred on the campus of the Islamic Republic. And as I mentioned, the New York Times reports that the Supreme Leader has ordered a direct strike on Israel in retaliation for the killing of Haniyeh. Earth Citizen says talk is cheap. So what will happen? I'm going to show you some stuff here and take some comments. Oh, let me get back to the video. There is Haifa. It is 2:21 a.m. Israel time. So some analysts think that that an Iranian response would come after the funeral of Haniyeh, which is going to be in the morning. It'll be, I don't even remember what day it is. Thursday. It will be Thursday morning, Iran time. Grey Jedi thinks Iran will do nothing after the funeral. That's what Grey Jedi thinks. Our viewer Olson thinks probably attack on Friday after the funeral. And so, when is the funeral? Did Faytuck say when it was? So if the funeral's in the morning, if the funeral's in the morning, that would be like the night before. Just the time difference between between like the U.S. and Iran is 7.5 hours, because in Iran right now it's 2:52 a.m. So like noon in Iran is like 4:30 a.m. U.S. time, Eastern Coast time. And if it was going to be like, if Iran was going to do something at night, midnight Iran time would be like 4:30 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S. Thank you to the Black Falcon. Falcon says the question that remains is whether they are doing a show of force or a declaration of war. Yeah, I mean, I certainly would expect some sort of response from them. But, the idea, so there's various levels of that response, but it's a big deal if it's a direct attack by them. I believe the first time Iran ever launched an attack directly on Israeli soil was in April. I think that was the first time ever. There was an Economist article that talked about that. But, but that was Iran doing it themselves. That wasn't Iran having Hezbollah launch something or the Houthis launch something. So it's more serious if Iran does it itself. And the New York Times is reporting that the Supreme Leader has ordered that Iran will attack Israel directly, not have somebody else do it in their place. Yeah, The Economist said in an article from today, they said, in April, Iran fired a volley of missiles and drones at Israel for the first time ever. The Economist said the Middle East's old rules of engagement have been erased because no one is sure about the new ones. Each strike risks escalating to all-out war. Thank you, Walter Beasley. Walter says if they can hit someone through their window, why did all those innocent people have to die? So we don't know a lot of details about this strike on Haniyeh, but there was reporting today that he was hit directly, like literally that the projectile directly hit him. Let me see if I can find something on that for you. I wanted to talk about that. Also, thanks to G-Rock. G-Rock, I'll have to check about that when I have a second. Thank you, G-Rock. I appreciate that. And thanks again, Walter Beasley. Joshua LeBlanc. No, I have also not heard about evacuations in Tel Aviv. That I have not heard about. I've heard nothing about it. If I hear about it, I'll let you know. And thanks to Henrock City, too. All right, hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. Give me a moment. There's like 4 things I wanted to look up and talk about. Oh, I remember what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so let me show you this. This is from Reuters, right here. As I have mentioned to you guys, real quick, so I announced this last night, that I have reached a deal with Associated Press to be able to pay them to use a bunch of their content, like their articles and their photos, which is really, really cool. So I'm really happy to do that. And I'm doing kind of a trial thing with Reuters. I use their live video, and it's great. But I also have, for the moment, I have access to their articles and photos too. And we'll see how that goes as well. But I'm going to show you this Reuters article. Killing of Hamas chief in Iran stirs fears of retaliation, regional conflict. This has something about how it happened. And the person we're talking about is this person here, Haniyeh, Ismail Haniyeh. Sorry, I know it has I could download the photo, but just for the sake of speed, I will just put the photo up with the Reuters logo on it. It won't have the logo on it if I download it, but just to kind of speed things along here. So he was killed by Hamas and Iran say he was killed by Israel in Tehran around 2 in the morning. Where he was in Tehran yesterday for the inauguration of the Iranian president. So let me show you this. Reuters says Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, political leader of Hamas, was assassinated in the Iranian capital Tehran early on Wednesday morning, an attack that drew threats of revenge on Israel and fueled further concern that the conflict in Gaza was turning into a wider Middle East war. The Palestinian, make this a little bigger here. The Palestinian Islamist militant group and Iran's Revolutionary Guards confirmed Haniyeh's death. The Revolutionary Guard said it took place hours after he attended a swearing-in ceremony for Iran's new president. Although the strike on Haniyeh was widely assumed to have been carried out by Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu's government made no claim of responsibility and said it would make no comment on the killing. Now look at this. Haniyeh was killed by a missile that hit him directly in a state guest house where he was staying. Senior Hamas official Khalil al-Hayya told a news conference in Tehran, quoting witnesses who were with Haniyeh. Let me say this again. Hold on a second here. Hang on one second here. Yeah, let me read this again. Haniyeh was killed by a missile that hit him directly in a state guest house where he was staying, said a senior Hamas official, quoting witnesses who were with him. So I don't know how much collateral damage there was. From what we're hearing, it was a precise type of strike. It doesn't sound like Israel exploded a whole building. That could be maybe part of the reason that we haven't seen, photos and videos of it. Maybe if there was a whole building that was destroyed, we might be more likely to see some photos and videos. I don't know. But this was reportedly at a state guest house, a government-controlled guest house. Sudden updraft says, how does Israel target so precisely? Now, remember also, this kind of strike, you need to know exactly where the person is staying. It wouldn't even be good enough to know what building they were staying in. You would need to know where they were, which is, if that's really true, and so, yeah, Lois Cox says insider help. If that's really true, that's obviously a very fine-grained level of information which Israel was able to obtain. How they obtained that, I don't know. But it's pretty specific. Sam thinks someone got paid off. Turned off says great intel behind enemy lines. Enemy lines. Shakalaka thinks someone snitched. Amit says they tracked him through his phone. I have no idea what happened, but it does seem. We were hearing a report last night that the leader of this group, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, was staying in the same building as him. So we have not heard about lots of other casualties. So it does look, at least at the moment, from what we're hearing, that this was some sort of precise strike that had to be based on some very precise intelligence. Sunflower says Mossad has moles everywhere. Haniyeh, this is a Reuters article, by the way. Killing of Hamas chief in Iran stirs fears of retaliation, regional conflict. Reuters says Haniyeh, normally based in Qatar, had been the face of Hamas's international diplomacy as the war set off by the Hamas-led attack on Israel on October 7th has raged in Gaza. He had been taking part in internationally brokered indirect talks on reaching a ceasefire in the Palestinian enclave. Netanyahu made no mention of the Haniyeh's killing in a televised statement, but said Israel had delivered crushing blows to Iran's proxies of late, including Hamas and Hezbollah, and would respond forcefully to any attack. And I do want to mention, you might say, well, why hasn't Israel made a comment on it? But you can see here, this is an article from Associated Press. Hamas's top political leader is killed in Iran in strike that risks triggering all-out regional war. They say Israel often refrains from commenting on assassinations carried out by its Mossad intelligence agency or strikes on other countries. So Israel might never actually claim this assassination. Gary Myers thinks a bodyguard snitched him out. Let me just read a little more of this article. The latest events appear to set back chances of any imminent ceasefire agreement in the nearly 10-month-old war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, says Reuters. Hamas's armed wing said in a statement that Haniyeh's killing would, quote, take the battle to new dimensions and have major repercussions. Vowing to retaliate, Iran declared 3 days of national mourning and said the U.S. bore responsibility because of its support for Israel. Oh, I was going to maybe play a little later in the broadcast. I might play what John Kirby had to say. You can see here it says, Washington expressed concern about the potential for escalation, but White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said the U.S. did not see that as imminent or inevitable and was working to prevent it from happening. So I might play a little of that for you in a little bit. And then, as we said, this assassination in Tehran of the Hamas political leader occurred less than 24 hours after Israel said it had killed Hezbollah's most senior military commander in retaliation for a deadly rocket strike in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Hezbollah confirmed that senior military commander Fouad Shukr was killed by an Israeli airstrike in a Beirut suburb. 7 people were killed and 78 wounded in that strike, according to the Lebanese Civil Defense Authority. Okay. So what do you guys think is going to happen here? Again, the New York Times is reporting that Iran's supreme leader has ordered a direct strike by Iran on Israel in retaliation for the Israeli assassination of Hamas's political leader in Tehran, where he was in Tehran, visiting Tehran, early this morning. So what do you think? How big a response do you think it will be from Iran? Somebody said, can you give a poll? But I'm trying to figure out, how would I ask this? I'm not sure what the categories are. Like, how big will their response be? Big or not big? I mean, I don't know how people are defining big. Golden Days and Night thinks limited response. Malik says it will be the exact same as in April, except they send more cruise missiles. Liam Baker thinks it will be an indiscriminate missile attack on civilians that get shot down by Iron Dome again. They don't have any other capabilities. That's what Liam thinks. So this was the Iranian strikes against Israel in April. There's a Wikipedia page on it. On April 13th, Iran launched retaliatory attacks against Israel. Iran, in collaboration with Hezbollah and the Houthis and the Islamic resistance in Iraq, all of these proxy groups of Iran, they launched retaliatory attacks against Israel with loitering munitions, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles. Iran's attack in April sent around 170 drones, over 30 cruise missiles, and more than 120 ballistic missiles toward Israel in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Israel said that it and its coalition partners destroyed 99% of the incoming weapons. A U.S. official said at least 9 Iranian missiles had struck 2 Israeli air bases, causing minor damage. The attack was the largest attempted drone strike in history. It was the first time since Iraq attacked Israel in 1991 with missile strikes that Israel was directly attacked by the military of another state. And I do believe it was the first time that Iran ever launched a direct strike on Israel. So, how about this? How about this? Yeah, it was Iran's first direct attack on Israel since the start of their proxy conflict. I don't know that Iran had ever launched a strike on Israel before. So I don't believe they had. Hey, I know what question I'm going to ask you guys. Will Iran's response, I'm assuming they're going to have some kind of military response. It would be crazy if they didn't. Just given crazy in the sense of like very, very unexpected. So assuming they will have a military response to this assassination in Tehran early this morning, will the response be bigger or smaller or the same size as the April attack on Israel? Will Iran's response be bigger or smaller than April attack? I'm actually gonna put this. I'm gonna actually ask this in a poll question. Let me put this as a poll. So we want bigger, smaller, and same size. Now, someone might argue, well, the attack actually in April didn't deter Israel. So wouldn't they need to go bigger? But I don't know. All right, I'm going to post this poll right now. All right, let's see what you guys said here in response to this. The other reason to think there'll be a response is that the Supreme Leader has publicly said there will be a response. So, wow, 72% of you think that Iran's response, this is on YouTube, that Iran's response will be bigger than the response in Israel they had when they sent 170 drones and over 30 cruise missiles and more than 120 ballistic missiles toward Israel. Wow, that'd be pretty big if it's bigger than that. That's on YouTube. What did people on Twitch say? 70% say bigger, 20% say same size, and 10% say smaller. Now, there's also, I mean, there's bigger in terms of numbers, but maybe there's a way they would do it that would be more dangerous to Israel, even if it's not as many numbers of things, of projectiles or drones or whatever. So a pretty similar number. Look at how similar those numbers are. 72% and 68% bigger, 14% and 13% smaller, 14% and 19% same size. I appreciate you voting in the poll. I'll leave it up there for another few seconds. Thank you, Anna Aylor. Thank you also, Joe, for your support. Joe says, could be either a show of force intended to fail or a dramatic escalation of the conflict. Has Israel ever completed an attack on Iranian soil? Well, Israel has launched, like, it's believed they have carried out assassinations before on Iranian soil. But Israel also, they back in, after these strikes, Israel launched a strike on Iranian soil. Maybe it says it in this article. All right, let me wrap up. Let me just get the polls off of there. Thank you for voting in the poll. Does it talk about that here? Yes. 2024 Israeli strikes on Iran, from Wikipedia. On April 19th, the Israeli Air Force launched airstrikes targeting an air defense facility within Iran. There was no extensive damage to the base itself. The attack was launched in response to the Iranian drone and missile strikes in Israel days earlier, which itself was an Iranian retaliation for an Israeli airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. So that was a strike, a limited one by Israel on Iranian territory, which happened a few months ago. Let me check for updates for a second. Hang on a moment. See if I have any updates to give you on anything. I got to check a bunch of things here. The Wall Street Journal has a headline right now: killing of 2 Israeli enemies puts Middle East on brink of wider war. All right, I have some things to show you, but Wes Downer says the real question is, will Iran order Hezbollah to attack Israel? That's a whole other question. Hezbollah had a top commander assassinated yesterday by Israel in Beirut. So how does that factor in? Don't forget, Hezbollah was already expected to retaliate for yesterday's assassination of one of their commanders in Beirut, Lebanon, in the suburb of Beirut. So how does, are we going to have a joint Hezbollah-Iran attack together? Beats me. Yeah, and I want to talk again. Somebody just mentioned this. There is a limited closure of Iran airspace that's been announced, but it's limited. And it seems to be for the funeral of Haniyeh. Yeah, I'll mention that one more time. Global Military Info, who I follow, posted about this, for example, and said, thank you for all the help in understanding this notice to airmen, this airspace closure. It is believed this notice to airmen is for, or notice to air missions, is for Khamenei, the supreme leader, leading the prayer over the Ismail Haniyeh's funeral prayer. Iran is expected to issue more airspace closures, again, prior to their retaliation. So you should, from what I can gather, this airspace closure, the one currently in effect, is a limited one which is not related to a retaliation. Thanks to Hairball for your support. I really appreciate that, Hairball. Thank you. And also Loki 1988, who says sleeper cells abroad, perhaps. Kiwi says proxies could also be used in the attack, making it a bigger response. All right, give me one moment here to check a couple things. Hey, thanks so much to Smochizuki on Twitch and Airtight Ski Pole for your support over there. Oh, and here's something more about the airspace closure. This is from Ariel Oserin, who is with I-24 News, Israeli. They do Israeli news there. Ariel says Iran will temporarily suspend air travel, NOTAM, over downtown Tehran beginning Thursday morning due to military activity, I would say most likely intended for the funeral of assassinated Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, as Supreme Leader Khamenei is expected to attend in person. So tomorrow, and remember, there's a 7.5-hour difference between Iran time and America East Coast time. And here's what Haifa looks like at the moment. Red Forensic, our viewer, thinks if they really hit Haniyeh directly, they probably had a lock on his phone. Can a phone, I mean, how specific is the phone data? I don't know. You know, if you have somebody's phone tracking, can you, I don't know that, like, for example, if you're using a phone to track what, if you're just tracking what cell towers are being pinged, that's not going to give you exact location, is it? So GPS, people are saying in the chat. So I don't know. It's an interesting idea. Could have been something with his phone. I don't know. Could he have been wearing something? Is there some kind of GPS tracker they could have put on him? So what Ren Forensic is referring to, just so people know, is there's a Hamas official. You can see here, this is from this Reuters article. Killing of Hamas chief in Iran stirs fears of retaliation, regional conflict. If you go down here, it says, Haniyeh was killed by a missile that hit him directly in a state guest house where he was staying. Senior Hamas official Khalil al-Hayya told a news conference in Tehran, quoting witnesses who were with Haniyeh. So there's this question of how would they know exactly where he was, and how would the, you know, how would that projectile get to that place? KGP says you can triangulate using 2 towers and or GPS satellite. Did they have human intelligence from someone on the ground? That I don't know. The government slave talks about a ground pointer using a laser. I don't know that we'll ever know how it was done. I certainly don't think if Israel did it, they're ever going to reveal how they did it. Shelley thinks that a missile was shot from a building nearby. Now, I believe we were seeing some reports last night that, I forget who was saying it. Was it Iran who was saying it? But we were seeing some reports, I think maybe in Iranian media, that that said that it came from another country, but I don't know if that's correct or not. I have no idea. See if I can find it. I thought I had posted something about it. Yes. So, a Lebanese news channel, Al Mayadeen, had reported that that he was killed by a missile launched from another country, but I don't know if that's the case. I don't. There's no conclusive reporting on where that missile came from. Okay, hey, let me talk about something else here. I also wanted to check some of the Israeli outlets and see what they were saying. There's so much stuff to check. There's so much stuff to check here. Give me a moment. Ooh, I'm looking at Ynet, which is an Israeli outlet. I got to translate it here. Yeah, Ynet mentions the New York Times report. Again, the New York Times is reporting that the Supreme Leader of Iran has ordered a direct attack on Israel in response for Israel's assassination of Hamas's political leader in Tehran this morning. Oh, this is weird. I don't know where this photo came from. So Ynet posted photos that it said are the building where Haniyeh was staying. Where did this come from? I haven't seen this picture anywhere. Let me see if I can find it for you. Hold on a second. That's weird. I have not. It's the first time I've seen anything like that. So I'm not even sure what the origin of that is. Give me a moment here. I don't even know where they got the photo. I got it. 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 Okay, check this out. This is a post from Christian Trebert of the New York Times. So I hadn't seen this. Maybe some of you had seen this. This is very interesting. Give me one moment here. I'll show it to you in a second. Let me just make sure I don't have it somewhere else. But I'm going to show you this photo. It's the first I've seen of it. Yeah, it's a big condo type building, as one of our viewers said. Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to show you this. So this was posted by Christian Trebert of the New York Times. He says, geolocation of the building in northern Tehran where Ismail Haniyeh was reportedly assassinated. I'm going to look up that. I'm going to look up that on Google Maps now. An Iranian official shared this image with Farnaz Fasihi of the New York Times, and it is circulating on Telegram. Green cloth and rubble is visible on the east side of the building. And then Christian Trebert also said a satellite image captured by Maxar on July 25th does not show the green cloth or the rubble on the first floor roof, suggesting the image above that's circulating is recent. The building is adjacent to the Sabadad Palace and near the president's official residence. Wow. I'll post a link to this post right now. Link to that post and photo, so you can go look at it. Very interesting. Hang on. So I want to pull up where they said this was, where Christian Trebert said the geolocation was. John Gamble says, talking about pinpoint. William Mills says that was a surgical strike. All right, so I have Google Maps location of it. This is very interesting. So I used Christian Trebert's coordinates in Google Maps, and I have looked it up on Google Maps. And I'm going to show you it on Google Maps, but you can't see it right now, but you'll be able to see it in 2 seconds. Okay, so let me get this on the screen for you. No, I don't want that. I want the map. I want the map. Okay, so it's this building. So this is in, there's Tehran. There's Tehran up there. Iran, there's Tehran. It's like in northern Tehran, it looks like. Or it's in maybe northern suburb of Tehran, Tajrish. So if we go over here, there it is. Wow. I can't do 3D. There is the building. Unbelievable. E-Oddity thinks there's moles in Iran. The building, I believe, is a guest house owned by the state. Yeah, there's Sabadad Cultural and Historical Complex, Historical Place Museum, Royal Weapons Museum. There's a museum here. But Christian Trebert said that the building is adjacent to the Sadabad Palace and near the president's official residence. Wow. Hey, a quick thank you to Betty Eftergood for your support and Bass 300. Bass 300 thinks this response might be more measured than in April, because Bass 300 is saying that the response in April was to an Iranian who was killed in the Iranian embassy complex in Syria. All right, hang on a second here. Okay, so thank you to Bass 300 and Chris. Chris thinks Iran is writing a check he probably can't cash. Also, Christine Bro for being a new member. Hey, thanks Hebrew Jerusalem Prince 777. That is very generous of you. Appreciate your support. Hebrew Jerusalem Prince thinks that Israel's killing of a Hamas leader is about to escalate things to a whole new level. Hebrew Jerusalem Prince thinks Iran is going to assassinate a top IDF leader. Thank you also, Justin Blair, for your support. Anyways, again, really quick, I'll post. I reposted this on my X account, and I'll post a link to it in the chat. So again, Christian Trebert says this is the building where the assassination of Haniyeh happened. He says this image. He's with the New York Times. He says this image was shared with New York Times Farnas Fasihi by an Iranian official, and it's also circulating on Telegram. And he says that green cloth and the rubble on that corner of the building is not there in a satellite shot from about 6 days ago. All right, hang on a moment. I hadn't even seen that. So I know people are like sending me messages and stuff. There's so much stuff to look at, so I'm just trying to kind of keep up with everything here. Hang on a second here. Give me one moment. Give me one moment. Give me just one moment here. Yeah, our viewer Red Drift sent me an article from Newsweek where it quoted the U.S. Secretary of Defense as saying the U.S. will help defend Israel if it's attacked, which I don't believe is a new position for the U.S. to take. He said, you saw us do it in April. You can expect to see us do that again. The U.S. helped shoot down, I believe, is some of the things, projectiles and drones shot at Israel during the big attack on Israel by Iran in April. So Newsweek reported that quote, as did other outlets. Thanks for writing in about that. And yeah, Caterpillar sent me a picture from this Telegram account called Colcod, which I got to be careful about the pictures because I don't know who originally took that photo and stuff, but maybe I can actually, I follow them on Telegram, so maybe I can throw a link to a close-up picture in the chat if I can dig it up here. It's like a more close-up picture purportedly of the building where the assassination happened. I probably can pull it up here. Well, I don't know if I can. Where are all my Israel feeds here? I'd like to post a link to it. I'll look out for it. I'm sorry, I can't find it right now. So I'll keep an eye out for it. Oops, sorry. Oh, I found a picture of it that somebody posted that I can pass it along. Again, I don't know if it's legit. Oh, hold on a second. Maybe it's not legit. That is an old picture. I found out it's an old picture. Not the one that the viewer sent me is an old picture. Not the one that the New York Times posted. So yeah. Okay. Things can get a little confusing here. The New York Times photo is believed to be the one I showed you on the air is believed to be the legit one. Let's see here. All right, hey, let me show you something. Let me show you a couple things here. So just to reiterate what's going on, let me reiterate what's going on. So the New York Times is reporting that the supreme leader of Iran has ordered let me just do this. The New York Times is reporting that oh, look, you can see the moon. You can see the moon up there. This is a shot of Haifa, Israel from AFP. The New York Times is reporting that the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has ordered Iran to directly strike Israel in response to Israel's alleged assassination of Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, which happened this morning. Apparently, he was definitely visiting Tehran for the inauguration of Iran's president, which was yesterday. And hours after that, he was staying at a building controlled by the government, and reportedly a missile struck him directly in the building and took him out. This is in Tehran. And now, according to the New York Times, the Supreme Leader has ordered a direct attack, not an attack carried out by one of Iran's proxies, but a direct attack by Iran on Israel in response to this. The New York Times also says that the Supreme Leader has ordered the army to prepare plans both for an attack and a defense in the event that the war expands and Israel or the United States strikes Iran. And something, again, to keep in mind, I do think it's important to keep this in mind, that when Iran launched the big strike on Israel, although most of it got shot down, when Iran launched its strikes on Israel on April 13th, 2024, that involved, according to Wikipedia, around 170 drones, over 30 cruise missiles, and more than 120 ballistic missiles. And apparently that did not deter Israel. Remember, this strike was launched after Israel attacked an Iranian consulate building Iranian consulate complex in Syria, and killed I believe a number of Iranians died in that, but one person who died was, you can see here, an Iranian source said the commanders included Mohammad Reza Zahedi. The suspected primary target of that attack was the Quds Force commander of the IRGC, Zahedi, who was killed in the attack. Anyways, my point is that Iran already did a retaliatory strike on Israel in April, which involved 170 drones, 30 cruise missiles, and more than 120 ballistic missiles. Now, granted, most of them got shot down. But if Iran's thinking is, well, we need to deter Israel, and the April attack didn't do it, they might be thinking we need to do something that's going to have a bigger impact on Israel and deter them more than the April attack did. What that would be, I don't know. Will they do that? I don't know. But I do think that this is already on the record. So, like, if they did something less than this, I do think that some people might accuse them of they might just say, like, hey, you didn't even do what you did in April, and that didn't even work. So why do you expect this to be a deterrent? So I don't know if the April thing sets like a low bar for them to have to go over. I don't even know how many missiles they have that are ready to use. I mean, drones, I'm sure they have a lot of. Jacques, I disagree. Jacques says if this were meant to be a serious attack, they would not be telling sources they would be attacking. Again, if Israel assassinates someone in Tehran, it will be assumed that Iran's going to attack them. It's not like Israel. It's not like Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting on his recliner during the day, and he's just carefree because he hasn't read any reports that Iran is going to retaliate. And so Benjamin Netanyahu opens up the newspaper. He's sitting there on his couch with his lemonade, and he opens up the newspaper, and all of a sudden he reads, oh my gosh, the New York Times is reporting that Iran's thinking of attacking now. And then he picks up the big red phone and says, oh my gosh, we need a meeting because I didn't think they were going to retaliate. But now it's been in the New York Times that they're going to retaliate, so we better get ready for this. Wow, I'm sure glad I read that article in the New York Times or we would have been caught off guard. So no, this report, a report coming out that they're going to do it, literally in no way prepares Israel any more than they would already be prepared. They would already be assuming that this would happen. Now, if there's specifics in reports about like they're going to attack on this day, well, that might be Iran telegraphing something. I don't believe a report that says they're going to directly attack really telegraphs anything. Oh, what am I hearing? I'm hearing something. Whoa. There is sound coming from one of the pages I'm on, and I don't know what page it is. Let's see. Sometimes, like websites, you pull up the site, and then like a half hour later, stuff starts playing on it. Was it the Iran site? I think it was the Khamenei site. I think it was the Iran Supreme... Whoa, no. It's got to be somewhere else. I'm hearing something. It might have been the AFP site. Was it the AFP site? Why am I hearing that? So weird. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. So what happened is the footage from Haifa got switched. AFP switched out the footage from Haifa to something else, to the Kamala Harris rally or something. So we started hearing the music from that rally. That's what it was. That's what it was. That's restricted footage. I can't show that, but I'm not showing it anyway. Anyways. I can actually show, you know what? I actually do have, I might show the start of it. I'm not going to like just do a new stream. Kamala Harris is supposed to speak in about at any moment now. So I might just check out a few minutes of it while I have it here. Just out of interest. Yeah. So I'm not going to really worry about it, but maybe I'll peek at it. Hey, let me. So that aside, here's what I want to do. I want to show you guys something. I've been meaning to show you something. I want to read you this article. I haven't even got time to read it myself. A couple things. I want to read you a couple things from AP. 2 strikes on militant leaders risk inflaming a Middle East on edge. This is from Associated Press, who I have this deal with, so I can show some of their content now. The targeting of 2 senior militant leaders in 2 Middle Eastern capitals within hours of each other, with each strike blamed on Israel, risks rocking the region at a critical moment. I mean, it's amazing that this happened. 2 senior militant leaders in 2 Middle Eastern capitals, both with ties to Iran, because one of the strikes happened in Tehran, Iran, and the other one was on a leader of Hezbollah, which is an Iranian-supported proxy group. These strikes come as international mediators are working to bring Israel and Hamas to agree to a ceasefire that would wind down the devastating war in Gaza and free hostages. I don't think we're going to have a ceasefire anytime soon now. Intense diplomatic efforts are also underway to ease tensions between Israel and Hezbollah after months of cross-border fighting. The assassination of Hamas's top leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and the strike against senior Hezbollah commander Fuad Shakir in Beirut could upend those painstaking attempts to defuse a Middle East powder keg. Iran has also threatened to respond after the attack on its territory, which could drag the region into an all-out war. So they say, here's a look at potential fallout from the strikes. Gaza ceasefire negotiations could crumble. I'm not going to worry about that right now. A broader war on more fronts risks erupting, says the Associated Press. The strikes also raised alarm among some diplomats working to diffuse tension in the region. The events in Tehran and Beirut pushed the entire Middle East to a devastating regional war, said one Western diplomat. I wonder if he meant to say closer to a devastating regional war. The diplomat, whose government has engaged in concerted diplomacy to prevent an all-out war between Israel and Hezbollah, but is not directly involved in ceasefire hostage negotiations, called the killing of Haniyeh in Tehran a serious development that has almost killed a possible ceasefire in Gaza, given its timing and location. She said that Haniyeh's killing inside Tehran while attending the inauguration of an Iranian president will force Tehran to respond. The Associated Press says the assassination in Tehran is not the first time that Israel has been blamed for a targeted attack on Iranian soil, but it's one of the most brazen, one of the most bold of these attacks, said Menachem Mirhavi, an expert on Iran from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Israel has not taken responsibility for the strike, although it vowed to kill all of Hamas's leaders over the October 7th attacks. Mirhavi, who is an expert on Iran, thinks it's unlikely Iran will respond directly to Israel, such as with the barrage of 300 rockets in April, after a suspected Israeli strike in Syria that killed 2 Iranian generals in an Iranian consulate building. He believes Iran is more likely to send its response via Hezbollah. Now, this report came from Associated Press, and this report was this morning. This afternoon, the New York Times reported that the supreme leader of Iran has ordered that Iran directly respond, not just through its proxies like Hezbollah. But we'll see what happens. Now, this is interesting, though. This expert says Iran knows its capability of hurting Israel is much more significant from Lebanon. And you might say, well, why is that? Why is it easier for Lebanon to hurt Israel? Well, it's closer. That's a big reason, I would think, is that it's closer. So if we zoom out here on our map, here's Israel here. Lebanon is literally across the border from Israel. There is no distance between Lebanon and Israel. It's on the border. There's Lebanon. There's Israel. There's a border between them. Whereas Iran is over here. If you remember, when Iran launched its big attack on Israel in April, there were like hours of time projected between when the drones and the missiles were launched and when they actually reached Israel, which of course gave Israel and its partners time to shoot these things down. There would obviously be less time to shoot things down if they're literally launched from right across the border. So that is an interesting thing to keep in mind, is if Iran wants to inflict damage on Israel, maybe they might launch strikes at the same time as Hezbollah, but maybe the Hezbollah ones from Lebanon are the ones really designed to cause damage, if that's what Iran wants to do. That's an interesting quote from this expert. Iran knows its capability of hurting Israel is much more significant from Lebanon. The location of Haniyeh's assassination was just as important as the strike itself, he said. The message was to Iran and the proxies: if you thought in Tehran you're protected, we can reach you there as well, said Mirhavi. Reconsider your relations with Tehran because they cannot protect you on its own soil. And a little point here that I think is interesting. Although Haniyeh's name has more international recognition, the strike on Hezbollah commander Fuad Shakur, which has been confirmed that he was killed, this Hezbollah commander was killed by Israel in Beirut yesterday. The strike on the Hezbollah commander is much more important from a functional point of view, said Michael Milstein, an Israeli analyst of Palestinian affairs at Tel Aviv University and a former military intelligence officer. He said that Shakur was involved in the day-to-day management of Hezbollah strikes on Israel, including, according to Israel, the rocket attack on Mashd al-Shams that killed 12 youths on Saturday. Israel said it's hit. If Hezbollah is considering how to act or respond, one of the main question marks is how they're going to manage a war without Shakur, said Milstein. Others said Shakur, if he is in fact killed, which Hezbollah confirmed, will be easily replaced. Hezbollah has thick layers of commanders and leaders, and the killing of 1 or 10 or 500 will not change the equation, said Fawaz Gerges of the London School of Economics. Gerges said Haniyeh is a much more symbolic leader and is far removed from the day-to-day operations in Gaza. Although the assassination of Haniyeh is a painful blow to for Hamas, he said, it will make no difference in the military confrontation between Israel and Hamas, he said. He noted that Israel has a long history of assassinating leaders of Palestinian groups, but those strikes have little impact as the leaders are quickly replaced. Anyways, that is from Associated Press there. So we are bringing you live coverage and updates as, again, the New York Times reports that the supreme leader of Iran has ordered Iran to directly attack Israel in response to Israel killing early this morning, allegedly killing the Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, Iran, where he was visiting for the inauguration of the new Iranian president. I've showed you a couple of people with Middle East knowledge who think that Iran would wait to retaliate till after the funeral for Haniyeh, where the supreme leader is speaking, which is, I believe, going to be Thursday morning, tomorrow morning, Iran time. Iran is 7.5 hours ahead of U.S. Eastern time. All right, let me take a few more comments from you guys. May I get a coffee? Says Iran won't do anything big. Yes, there has not been an attack yet, but there is an expectation of one. Nito God, that is true. Smooth Operator said, did he say that or just the newspaper? Well, first of all, I wasn't physically there listening to him say that. But second of all, I showed you his own webpage before, the Supreme Leaders, where he does say that they are going to retaliate and punish Israel. He literally said it on his own website. But he didn't specify. I think the big thing about the New York Times report is the claim that he ordered a direct attack from Iran, not through a proxy force. Yeah, here again is the that's the official website of the Iran Supreme Leader. And it says, hang on a moment here. Let me get this. On the screen for you here. That's the post. The brave leader and prominent Palestinian mujahid, Mr. Ismail Haniyeh, joined his creator in the early hours at dawn, and the Great Resistance Front is mourning his loss. The criminal terrorist Zionist regime, he means Israel, martyred our dear guest in our territory and has caused our grief, but it has also prepared the ground for a severe punishment. He said, following this bitter, tragic event which has taken place within the borders of the Islamic Republic, we believe it is our duty to take revenge. So, I mean, that's him on his own website saying that. But the New York Times report is saying that he has ordered that it's a direct attack on Israel from Iran. I also think, given that Iran launched a direct strike in April on Israel in response for Israel attacking that Iranian consulate building in Syria, that sets a bar. I think that sets a bar for Iranian retaliation. So I think if Iran retaliates and it's not a direct attack, you could have people saying, hey, you did a direct attack in response to Israel, in April, and that didn't even deter them. So why do you think this indirect attack is going to deter them? But somebody else might say, well, if they have Hezbollah has a huge arsenal of rockets and missiles and is right next to Israel, so they could not do a direct attack, but at the same time, if they tell Hezbollah to do it, and Hezbollah could launch a very damaging attack. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I certainly think there will be some sort of significant response from Iran and Hezbollah. Maybe both. Maybe you'll have two different responses. Let me take some more comments from you guys. Sea Turtle says Iran is not responding alone. A bunch of people are sending me like posts, but they're from these random sites, and like I don't know why these random social media accounts would know anything, would have this privileged information. Some of them are sites that I don't find reliable. So, you know, I'm not just going to pass along everything. You know, I saw this today too. Thanks for reminding me about this. I don't know where this came from. I don't know the original source. So our viewer messaged me about this. I saw this earlier, Pro-Life United profile. So I-24 News English said there was a report that Haniyeh's bodyguard leaked info that led to his assassination. So they didn't even report it themselves. They said there's a report. And if you look at their article, they said Iranian media reported this, but I don't know what Iranian media reported this. That a bodyguard leaked critical information. And then another thing is this, is if Iranian media really did report that, it could be Iranian state media which is leaking that to take the blame off of Iran, right? So Iran could say, "Hey, let's blame his bodyguard," and then we'll get blamed less for something we did wrong. So my point is that I don't know if that's true. It's not been widely reported, and it's not I-24 saying we found this information ourselves. They're just saying they saw it in Iranian media, and I don't even see what the original Iranian media is that posted it. So I'm certainly open to hearing more on that, but I'm not putting too much stock into that report at the moment. I mean, it could be true. Stephen Elder says, is it disinformation or misinformation? He might not be talking about this, though. He might just be asking about the words. So I'm just not sure about that. Scott Hare says there is a large event going on in the world right now in Paris. I hope they fortify security at the Olympics. I mean, certainly I know security is a big concern at the Olympics. If Iran is going to respond for this, they would want to respond to Israel. If there was some attack at the Olympics that wasn't like Israel related, it might not be seen as a retaliation. Although certainly, I mean, and I'm sure that they've had I'm sure the Israeli Olympic team has lots of security and stuff like that. And that is a scenario that Israel thinks about in advance. Thank you, Scott, for writing in. Merck says, if Netanyahu is not taking responsibility, how do we know this was not an internal assassination by an IRGC member? It just doesn't make much sense. Why would Iran want to assassinate their guest, the political head of Hamas, who was their invited guest, along with many other invited guests, to the Iranian president's inauguration? Why would they want to do such a thing? It just seems like there's so many negatives to that, and I don't really see the big positive. And I'll also say that I follow a lot of people who know way more about the region than I do, and not a single one of them have suggested that possibility. So, other than it being like a metaphysical possibility, I just don't see any reason to think that happened. And as I said last night, we don't know Israel did it for certain, but they really are the obvious culprit. An attack like this is enormously difficult. You have to have the weaponry to carry it out, you have to have the intelligence to carry it out, and you have to have the motive to carry it out. And all of that just really, really narrows it down. And Israel is known for carrying out assassinations within Iran, for example, of nuclear scientists, sometimes in these creative ways. So it just seems like the obvious case. So I understand why. I think it's a fair question to say, well, how do we know? But I mean, it really is the obvious case for those reasons. So by the way, as we go forward, I'm going to be certainly keeping an eye on this, and if at any point in time it looks like something is happening and I'm off the air, I'll come back on the air. So make sure you subscribe and follow the channel. Also, by the way, I do want to mention, we have a notification system, because I never know when stuff's happening. So this could happen at 2, something could happen at 2 in the morning or something. So a really good way to find out when we're going live is to turn on our notifications. We have a free notification system where you sign up and you get sent a notification every time we go live. We do it through Discord. It's really reliable. And so the mods can post the link to the notifications in the chat. Excuse me, and you can sign up to that if you want. And also the notifications link is available in the Facebook and YouTube descriptions for this video. But I would definitely sign up to the notifications and subscribe and follow the channel. Also, when I'm not on the air, just as a heads up, I do constantly post breaking news updates on my X account, which is @Lookner. And you can I'll put the link in the chat, but that's another place to follow me for breaking news. If I'm hearing kind of rumblings, I'll post it there, and then if there's big enough news, I'll come on the air. So I wanted to mention that. I was going to show you some of this article too in a second. Hamas's top political leader is killed in Iran in strike that risks triggering all-out regional war. That's from Associated Press. Has Haniyeh been replaced? I have not heard that he has officially been replaced yet. Can I have a live stream of Israel going? It depends on what footage I have, but I only would do something like that if the news warranted it. So, if we had good information that a strike was about to happen, well, I'd probably be on the air for that. I'd probably be on the air. It wouldn't just be the footage. But yeah, I'm not just going to leave something up, generally speaking, unless there's a really decent chance that it might be newsworthy. But if there is such a case, I'll consider doing it. Coach John says no one wants his job now. Hey, quick thanks, by the way, to Andrea Cupcake, Aleppo Gambit for your support, David Farden Jr., UKL. UKL is asking when it'll happen. One answer I've seen offered is that it could happen after the funeral of Haniyeh in Iran, which is tomorrow morning, Iran time. But it could happen at any time, honestly. We don't know. But I have seen some people say that they thought, some people with knowledge of the region think it's going to happen after the funeral. Sometime after the funeral. Thanks, Betty Eftergood, for your support. And hey, a quick shout out to our moderators. Really appreciate you modding. We have One Way Street is modding. Hey, One Way Street. We have BZ and Sarah 55 modding as well. And we have Linda Belk and Larry on X. We have our mods over there on Twitch. Big Ball of Yarn, Cerrero, Good Luck Duck, I Got That Fire, McBritches, Papa Bear, and Surly Dev. And speaking of Twitch, thanks to Brainstorm Morning for the shout out on Twitch, and McBritches and Meek Yoy and Timido1 for the support, and also Elysium Field for the support on Twitch. And thanks to our Facebook moderators like K. Larry Body, Christina Neal, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson. I think I'm missing somebody. Bud Green, maybe? Thank you, Facebook moderators. And thanks, Bone Mama, for the support. Hey, let's take I want to show you this as well. Let's see what's in here. Here's an article from AP, another AP article. I'm not going to read the whole thing necessarily. I just want to see if we have different stuff than before. Oh, by the way, there's some photos here attached. So that is Ismail Haniyeh. And actually, that's one of the photos that was taken hours before his death. So the caption says, in this photo, he sits in a meeting with the president of Iran on July 30th. So he was in Iran, in Tehran, for the inauguration of the president, who there was only a new president in Iran, remember, because back in, I think, April or May, the Iran president's helicopter crashed and he was killed. And that's the reason there's a new president. And Haniyeh, is normally in Qatar and Turkey. He would split time there. And he would not be a target in either of those places. From what I understand, Israel would never have attacked him in either of those places because it would have been too sensitive. Turkey would not have wanted that. Qatar would not have wanted it. And there's just certain diplomatic rules for what you can do with different countries. So he would have felt safe in Qatar and been safe in Qatar and Turkey, from my understanding. But now maybe he thought he was going to be safe in Iran. That I don't know. I clearly didn't think it was key. I don't think he thought he was going to be in great danger there. But anyways, he was there yesterday. This picture was taken yesterday, just hours before he was killed. There's a bunch of pictures of him yesterday. So this is from yesterday, and he's in Tehran. So just to show you some of these pictures. And this, again, this is him at the inauguration ceremony for the president. That's him right there. It's kind of strange to see all these pictures. These are from AP. But it's strange. I mean, these are all pictures from yesterday. And then this is members of the Tehran University Council attend a protest to condemn the killing of Haniyeh. Shown in this picture here that the guy's holding up. That's from today. You can see people in Iran holding up his picture. That's from today. Oh, this is that's a backhoe removing debris from the building in Beirut where Israel killed a Hezbollah top commander yesterday. That's what those pictures are of. There is a supporter of Hamas holding up the picture of Haniyeh during a protest to condemn his killing at a Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon. And that is a picture of Fuad Shakur, the Hezbollah top commander who was killed by an Israeli airstrike in a Beirut suburb yesterday. Iranian workers install a huge banner on a wall showing a portrait of Haniyeh and the Dome of the Rock Mosque at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound of Jerusalem today. Iranian protesters attend a demonstration condemning the killing of Haniyeh today. And there he is there at the, surrounded by Iranian lawmakers yesterday at the inauguration, hours before he was killed. Masked boys hold machine gun toys during a protest in Sidon, Lebanon, to condemn the killing of Hamas's political chief Ismail Haniyeh, one of them holding a photo of him. More children, supporters of the Islamist Hamas movement, hold posters of Haniyeh during a protest to condemn his killing at a Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon today. And that is him. That's a picture of him greeting the new Iranian president yesterday, hours before he was killed. Haniyeh is on the left there. Okay. Let me just look at some of this article. I was going to show you some of this. Hamas's top political leader was killed Wednesday by a pre-dawn airstrike in the Iranian capital. Iran and the militant group Hamas said, blaming Israel for a shock assassination that risked escalating into an all-out regional war. Iran's supreme leader vowed revenge against Israel. The New York Times is reporting that the Iran supreme leader has ordered a direct Iranian attack on Israel in response. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel will exact a very heavy price from any aggression against us on any front, but did not specifically mention the killing. There are challenging days ahead, said Netanyahu. Israel had pledged to kill Ismail Haniyeh and other Hamas leaders over the group's October 7th attack in southern Israel that sparked a war in Gaza. The strike came just after Haniyeh had attended the inauguration of Iran's new president in Tehran, and hours after Israel targeted a top commander in Iran's ally Hezbollah in the Lebanese capital Beirut. The assassination was potentially explosive amid the region's volatile, intertwined conflicts because of its target, its timing, and the decision to carry it out in Tehran, the capital of Iran. Most dangerous was the potential to push Iran and Israel into direct confrontation if Iran retaliates. The U.S. and other nations scrambled to prevent a wider, deadlier conflict. As I mentioned, the supreme leader of Iran said on his website revenge was, quote, our duty, and that Israel had prepared a harsh punishment for itself by killing a dear guest in our home. Let's see. Okay. Do I want to talk about any of this stuff here? Israel often refrains from commenting on assassinations carried out by its Mossad intelligence agency or strikes on other countries. It has not commented taking credit for this assassination of Haniyeh. The Israeli defense minister said Israel does not want war after its strike on the Hezbollah commander in Beirut, but we are preparing for all possibilities. He did not mention the Haniyeh killing. And a U.S. provided summary of his call with Secretary of Defense Austin also did not mention the killing. Interesting. Haniyeh left the Gaza. Associated Press says Haniyeh left the Gaza Strip in 2019, and he had lived in exile in Qatar. Israel has targeted Hamas figures in Lebanon and Syria during the war, but going after Haniyeh in Iran was vastly more sensitive. Israel has operated in Iran in the past. It is suspected of running a years-long assassination campaign against Iranian nuclear scientists. In 2020, a top Iranian military nuclear scientist was killed by a remote-controlled machine gun while traveling in a car outside Tehran. Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guard warned Israel will face a harsh and painful response from Iran and its allies around the region. Besides a direct retaliation on Israel, Iran could work to increase attacks through its allies, a coalition of Iran-backed groups known as the Axis of Resistance, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, mainly Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, and the Houthi rebels who control much of Yemen. So that is from Associated Press. And I want to remind you of what this report from Reuters, killing of Hamas chief in Iran stirs fears of retaliation, regional conflict, where they said Haniyeh, the Hamas political leader, was killed by a missile that hit him directly in a state guest house where he was staying. Senior Hamas official Khalil Hayya told a news conference in Tehran, quoting witnesses who were with him. So, again, the New York Times reporting that Iran is going to that the Supreme Leader has ordered a direct strike from Iran on Israel. We will have to see if that happens and when it happens. Take a few more comments from you guys. What do you think will happen? Give me a shout on X at Lookner. A quick thanks, by the way, to Bone Mama for the GIF memberships. That's really nice of you. And Anna, thanks for your support. And also all of our moderators as well. Matt said, your repost about past retaliations not occurring until funerals were complete is interesting. We may not see anything until funeral is complete. By the way, I do wonder, will I have access to that funeral? I might have footage of it. I'm looking. I'm looking at what I have access to. Reuters does not seem to have it listed. I'll keep an eye on Reuters and AFP and see if I don't know that I'd necessarily cover it, but it's possible I could get footage of the funeral. Oh, I got the Haifa shot back. Hey, I have the Haifa shot back, guys. There's Haifa, Israel. Live shot from AFP. I'm going to show you again that thing about the funeral thing. Yeah, Jason Brodsky, who is a Middle Eastern analyst and an Iran expert, a non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute, says, I understand that some airspace closures have been issued in Iran, but worth noting, the retaliation for past operations by Israel occurred after the funeral. See, for example, in April, when Iranian commander Zahidi was killed in Syria. The funeral for the Hamas leader Haniyeh is tomorrow. What time is the funeral? I believe it's in the morning, but I'm not sure. Fardad Farazad, journalist with Iran International, said that the flight restriction is a small flight restriction around the University of Tehran from 6 a.m. till noon Tehran time. That is when the Supreme Leader is scheduled to lead the Ismail Haniyeh's funeral prayer. So maybe it's in the morning, but I don't know how long it continues for. I'll see if I can find any new information on that. Let me check a check and see. By the way, really quick, I just spotted this from Reuters. UN Security Council countries express alarm over risk of all-out Middle East war. It's from Reuters. United Nations Security Council countries today called for stepped-up diplomatic efforts to avert a wider Middle East conflict after the killings of two militant leaders raised tensions. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran, Iran on Wednesday, sparking threats of revenge against Israel and fueling concern the Gaza conflict was turning into a wider Middle East war. The assassination occurred less than 24 hours after Hezbollah's most senior military commander was killed in an Israeli strike on the Lebanese capital, Beirut, in retaliation for a deadly rocket attack in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Japan's deputy UN representative said, "We fear the region is at the brink of all-out war." Britain's UN ambassador urged calm and restraint. So I just wanted to mention that. Zardoz thinks Iran's weakness is completely exposed. You know, one thing I saw an interesting piece of analysis today. Did I see this in The Economist? So The Economist had an article about the situation today in the Middle East. And I think if I remember it, I'm going to look at it here. I think one thing they were saying is that they said a couple things, a couple interesting things here. So, but they were talking about this possibility of a ceasefire. And they said that Israel might want a ceasefire because it's continuing to conduct this war in Gaza, and it has this not an out and out war, but there's been hostilities in the north with Lebanon, and they can't realistically keep carrying on all this fighting on multiple fronts. So something that let me see if I can find where they said this. Let's see. I'm looking at this article in The Economist. Is that what is that where it was? Let's see. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. So here's something The Economist said today about Israel. They said, the assassinations may have been feats of intelligence and operations, but they do not change Israel's bleak strategic position. Israel's war in Gaza has been drifting aimlessly for months. The loss of Mr. Haniyeh, a politician who had little say over the fighting, will not weaken Hamas on the battlefield. Nor will assassinating Fuad Shukr, the Hezbollah commander, compel the group to halt its daily fire on northern Israel. A small country cannot keep battling on all fronts indefinitely, which is interesting. But something else The Economist says is they say there's a chance that Netanyahu wants to keep conflict going. So they say it is still unclear whether Netanyahu wants a ceasefire deal. The Israeli prime minister has prevaricated for months, fearful that agreeing to a ceasefire would switch Israel's focus back to its internal ills and his own trial for corruption. So there's that too. I thought those were interesting pieces of analysis for The Economist. And I also see, I was thinking of that because the AP has this article today, What to Know About the Escalating Conflict in Israel-Hamas Ceasefire Talks After 2 Assassinations. But look at this. See, it says Israel is under fire on multiple fronts. Israel uses targeted killings and the perception of overwhelming force in Gaza to communicate with the region's other players, Iran among them, about the consequences of aggression against Israel. Now Israel faces the threat of retaliation from multiple fronts. In this cycle, the rocket attack on Majd al-Shams in the north begat the assassination of Shukr in Beirut, and Haniyeh's killing in Tehran came during Israel's 10 months war against Hamas in Gaza. Okay? Against that backdrop, Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon have exchanged near daily strikes, but they have previously kept the conflict at a deadly but relatively low level that has not escalated into full-scale war. The assassinations of Shukr and Haniyeh could change those calculations. Iran has also threatened to respond after the attack on its territory. Israel's foreign minister said in a letter to dozens of foreign ministries around the world that Israel is not interested in an all-out war. He urged a full cessation of hostilities along the Israel-Lebanon border, but he added a warning. Israel sent a clear message: we will harm with great force whoever harms us. So it is just worth mentioning that, Israel is a smaller country, and it's certainly not an ideal situation for them to be facing hostilities on multiple fronts. The AP also says the complex dynamics add up to serious concerns about a regional war in which countries could get drawn into one. Nomi Bar Yaakov with Chatham House says, we've now seen again that Israel can target anywhere in Iran, but this time there is a question of the safety of the Iranian senior officials. Israel is basically sending a message to the Iranians with this assassination in Tehran this morning. We can kill any one of you anywhere, anytime, and that is very dangerous. Nomi, it's not Naomi, it's a he. He added, Iran has many long arms known as proxies, but they act as sub-states in many places, in Iraq and Syria, in Lebanon and Yemen, in Gaza, of course, in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem. So they have got their people training, arming, planning everywhere, and they can reach anywhere in the world. They can also hit Israeli or Jewish targets globally, and the question really is what's next. And one of our viewers mentioned the possibility of Iran doing something outside the region, and it's something worth keeping in mind. Maybe Iran will try to strike back against Israel that way. Some very interesting and complex aspects to this whole situation. All right, I'm going to ask one more time, what do you guys think is going to happen here? How do you think this is going to play out? I'm going to read a few more comments. What do you guys think is going to happen here? I'll read some comments from you. Deadly Gurus Gus says, another drone strike, you mean from Iran on Israel? Abond V says, more death, just more death. Stephen Johnson says, wait until Saturday. Dana Dog Afternoon says, nothing until Friday. Michael Varley says, missiles flying after the funeral. Deadeye says, nothing will happen. It'll be like last time. Well, in April, Iran fired 170 drones and 120 ballistic missiles. Was it 30 cruise missiles? I mean, if you think that's nothing, fine. I don't think that's nothing. Yeah, according to Wikipedia, it was 170 drones, over 30 cruise missiles, and more than 120 ballistic missiles. Larry Potter thinks it will be just like last time. Maharaja thinks the price of oil will increase. Barry says they waited a week or two last time. Interesting point. So last time, the Israeli bombing of the Iranian embassy building in Damascus was on April 1st. And then 12 days later were the Iranian strikes against Israel. So that's an interesting point. It took 12 days to respond to that. David Spivak thinks it's going to be a full-scale war. Hey, thanks, David, for your support of the channel. I appreciate that. The Deplorable said, I didn't see all those drones and missiles. There actually is footage out there of Israel and coalition partners taking out some of the drones and missiles. Our viewer, Laika Chelataya, says, do we know how Israel can reach these guys through city building windows without their weapons being intercepted? I don't know enough about that. I don't know, where exactly, if it's true that a missile hit Haniyeh directly, where was that missile fired from? A long distance away, another country, or was it fired from closer? If it was fired from a long distance away, is that something that normally Iran would be expected to take out or not? It's a good question. I don't have good answers for you. Vegeta says they telegraphed it, save face attack. You're talking about the one in April, right? I mean, also, they did fire these things from Iran, and it was, I think, that Israel and the allies had a couple had hours of heads up, given the distance. Yeah. Hang on. I remember, there's somewhere I can look about this. You know what's interesting about this? I want to mention something. The Institute for the Study of War, I'll post a link to this article. They have an article on the Iran's attack in April. I think I read it back then, I just forget it. So I'm going to post a link to this article in the chat right now, ISW article. And I just want to point out a little thing they said in the article. And then you can read the whole article if you want to. But the thing they said in the article is, they said in their article, hang on a moment. The strike consisted of approximately 170 drones, 30 cruise missiles, 120 ballistic missiles. The drones were launched well before the ballistic missiles were fired, very likely in the expectation that they would arrive in Israel's air defense window at about the same time as the cruise missiles and drones. Oh, well, maybe that's a typo. It said the drones were launched before the ballistic missiles were fired, very likely in the expectation they would arrive in Israel's air defense window about the same. I think they're saying that everything was supposed to arrive at the same time. And then they said the Russians have used such an approach against Ukraine repeatedly. The purpose of such a package, says the Institute of Study of War, is to have the slower cruise missiles and drones distract and overwhelm air defenses in order to allow the ballistic missiles, which are much harder to shoot down, to reach their targets. The Iranians very likely expected that few, if any, of the cruise missiles and drones would hit their targets, but likely hoped that a significantly higher percentage of the ballistic missiles would do so. Anyways, that's an interesting analysis from the Institute for the Study of War, and you can read the whole article in the link. And they think that the Iranians thought that their strike would be more successful in April and that more missiles would have gotten through. They say the Iranians expected that at least some of their drones and cruise missiles would interfere with Israeli targeting of incoming ballistic missiles, whereas apparently none did. So on that picture, it was actually a strike designed to do some significant damage, even though it really didn't. And at the end of this report from the Institute of Study of War, they say the only Iranian missiles that got through hit an Israeli military base, limiting the damage, but a future strike in which several ballistic missiles penetrate Israeli air defenses and hit Tel Aviv or Haifa could cause significant civilian casualties and damage to civilian infrastructure, including ports and energy. So they say Israel and its partners should not emerge from the successful defense in April with any sense of complacency. Anyways, I'll post a link to that article. It's very interesting. I'm going to have to read the whole thing. But it's from the Institute for the Study of War. I'll post a link to it in the chat, and you can read the whole thing if you want. Very interesting. Okay. Barry says Iran coordinated the times of arrival in April, overload air defenses, increasing chance of missiles getting through. All right, do I have any other updates for you guys? Ryan David, our viewer, thinks Iran waiting until after Haniyeh's funeral makes the most sense. A large-scale direct attack prior to the funeral could lead to Israel retaliating against the funeral itself. I'm sure there will be some high-ranked officials attending the funeral. That's from our viewer, Ryan David. Thanks, Ryan, for writing in. Big Time says Israel has been wanting to do something about Iran since before the massacre. Now they are intent on destroying all that pose an existential threat. I think Israel is preparing for an all-out war with Iran. That's what Big Time thinks. Thank you, Big Time, for writing in. Hang on a second here. Give me one moment. Let's see here. Spiky says it. Now, I don't know if this is actually what they're claiming. Spiky says it totally makes sense that the Iranian state media is claiming the bodyguard leaked his location and his critical info. They're probably saying it was a Mossad agent too. Yeah, so again, I-24 English said that some Iranian media claimed that that Haniyeh's bodyguard leaked his info. I don't even know which Iranian source they're talking about, to be honest. They didn't say, so I'm not sure of that. But thank you for writing in, Spiky. Jock Markardrian says, all-out war not going to happen. Neither side has the logistics for multi-border confrontation. It will be limited to drone, rocket, and missile strikes. I will say this. I have seen many analyses which say that Israel and Iran and Lebanon all do not want a big war. They all have big reasons to not want a big war, which would be destructive for their own countries or their own political party, in the case of Hezbollah, and people. But even if they don't want it, there's the risk that escalation can kind of keep happening. But, you know, there's certainly really good reasons for Iran and Israel and Hezbollah to avoid some sort of major regional war. By the way, just a quick heads up about something. Alert Page posted that there was an ammonia leak in Sterling, Virginia, on an ammonia tank, and there were about 20 people hurt, supposedly. So I'll keep an eye out for that. That's from Alert Page. Any Moment Now says, if they didn't want war, why did they allow Hamas to attack Israel on October 7th? All right, I'm just making sure I don't have any other... Oh, hold on a second here. Let's see here. Yeah, so Joe Truzman, who I follow on social media, Truzman, I follow him on X. He had a quote in a Newsweek article. Newsweek has an article about how Iran might respond to Israel. And Joe has a quote that says, Israel has once again demonstrated the holes in Iran's security, and the Iranian regime has decided it must take action in an attempt to restore the deterrence it had against the Jewish state. The article continues and says, and yet the issue is further complicated, said Truzman, by the killing of the Hezbollah commander Shukr in Lebanon, which adds an entirely new dimension to the plans for retaliation among both Iran and its axis of resistance allies. Joe says the desire to pursue a larger scale attack could potentially push the region past the brink of an even bigger conflict that would overshadow the war that has already devastated Gaza. Joe Truzman said, the outcome of the response from Hezbollah, Iran, and the broader axis of resistance is critical. This situation has the potential to escalate into a full-blown regional war, making the current situation in Gaza seem relatively minor in comparison. Still, he noted that both Iran and Hezbollah have signaled their preference for an Israel-Hamas ceasefire, and he believed this overarching strategy was unlikely to change, even if an escalation in some form was all but guaranteed. And Joe said, we might see Iranian proxy groups get the green light from Tehran to carry out a significant uptick in attacks against U.S. personnel in the region, commercial shipping in the Red Sea, and Israeli territory, aimed at pressuring both the U.S. and Israel into reaching a truce with Hamas. Anyways, that's what Joe said in the article. If you want to see the rest of the article, I will post a link to the article in the chat right now, and you can read that. It's a Newsweek article called How Iran Could Strike Back at Israel. So I posted the link in the chat. And Joe, you can follow. He's a very good person to follow for Middle East stuff. He is at Joe Truzman on X. Cells Interlinked says, could be a huge escalation if things go the wrong way. Oh, and by the way, some people mentioned me. There was this, speaking of Joe, there was a rumor going around today that like an Iranian Revolutionary Guard official had been killed in Syria. So Joe posted this. I haven't heard any really much more about that, but Joe did post 9 hours ago. He said, lots of unconfirmed reports out of Damascus that an Iranian Revolutionary Guard official has been eliminated near the capital. He said, update, the fire that is linked to the alleged attack is not due to a strike, but rather a bunch of tires on fire. The rumor is likely false. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay. Well, at the moment, I don't have much else new for you at the moment that I'm seeing. Just do a quick check here. Oh, and I just want to show you another what another analyst is saying. This is from this article from the AP. Killing of Hamas political leader points to diverging paths for Israel-U.S. on ceasefire. And they say, they talk to Vali Nasser, a former U.S. diplomat now at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. They say if the expected cycles of retaliation and counter-retaliation ahead start unspooling as feared, Haniyeh's killing could mark the end of the Biden administration's hopes of restraining escalatory actions as Israel targets what Netanyahu calls Iran's axis of terror in the wake of Hamas's October 7th attacks in Israel. And they say in this article, hold on a second, Haniyeh had been openly living in Doha, Qatar for the months since the October 7th attack. But he wasn't attacked until he was in Tehran for the inauguration of Iran's president. Nasser said Iran will see it as a direct Israeli attack on its sovereignty and respond. If you wanted to have a ceasefire, if Haniyeh was in your sights, you might have said, I'll kill him in a few months, not now, said Nasser. Israel may have attended the strike in Tehran to increase pressure on Hamas to take a deal on the ceasefire and release the hostages in Gaza, said another expert, Ahmed Fuad al-Khatib, with the Atlantic Council. Also, analysts and diplomats warn any such expansion of the hostilities touching off uncontrollable analysts and diplomats warn of any such expansion of the hostilities touching off uncontrollable conflicts throughout the region, and that would draw in the U.S. as Israel's ally. All right. Well, look, I don't have anything really big for you at the moment in terms of new. But certainly, I do have this. The Times of Israel is saying that the Supreme Leader Khamenei will lead funeral prayers for Hamas leader Haniyeh on Thursday at the funeral. The funeral will be held in Tehran, said Press TV, Iranian state media, and I don't have the exact time of the funeral. But there is a air closure in Tehran between 6 a.m. and noon. So maybe that's a rough time of the funeral. Oh, I have a time for you. Press TV from Iran, Press TV, I just saw it 40 minutes ago. Press TV, Iranian state TV, Iranian state media. This is the right one, right? Yes, Press TV. They say the funeral of Ismail Haniyeh will begin in Tehran at 4:30 GMT. So 4:30 GMT is 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And then that means 8 a.m. Iran time. Do I have that right? Yes. The funeral will begin in Tehran at 8 a.m. Tehran time. And that's 12:30 a.m. Eastern time. if I have that right. So again, the funeral for Haniyeh in Tehran will begin at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Iran time. So in 3 hours from now, that's close. I just saw that. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have footage of the funeral. So I got to figure it out. I mean, I don't, maybe there's a world in which I cover it if I have footage. I mean, I don't know that there'll be much to cover. But, oh, you know what's really interesting? So I just looked it up. Yeah, that did happen. So I assume this is the reason. I don't know for sure, but Iran, this Iran International breaking news, which is at Iran INTLBRK, they mentioned that around the time of the New York Times coming out with their report today, that the supreme leader of Iran had ordered a direct Iranian strike on Israel. Around that time, the price of oil started shooting up. And I actually checked the oil price. And according to oilprice.com, the oil price at about 7 hours ago was at around 75, and now it's at 79. It kind of just goes up. At least the one on oilprice.com. But I'm looking, I just want to make sure. That's the one, so the one I looked up was like that. Yeah, oilprice.com had WTI crude kind of shooting up. It was at 74.73 yesterday. So I don't know for sure that that report is what caused it to go up, but it did go up a bunch in the last day and over recent hours. Oh, see, I'll show you here. Hold on, I'll show you. So this is from NASDAQ. It says crude oil. I don't know if I'm doing this right. It says NASDAQ, but I think, so you can see here it says 730, 74.73. And 731, 77.91. So again, I don't know if that's from the New York Times report. Maybe it's just from the news that these assassinations happened, and people think there might be a conflict from that. So I don't know the exact timing on that, but it has gone up a significant amount in the last day, for whatever that's worth. Oh, look, I got it. Hey, I got the article. Oil rises. I don't have to guess. Because I have it. Oil rises on risk of broadening Middle East conflict from Reuters. There you go, guys, right there. Oil prices rose in early Asian trading on Thursday, extending strong gains in the previous session after the killing of Hamas leader in Iran raised the threat of a wider Middle East conflict and on signs of strong oil demand in the U.S. So there you have it. See? The killings of the Hamas leader and the Hezbollah commander fueled concern that the 10th-month-old war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas was turning into a wider Middle East war, which could potentially lead to disruptions in oil supply from the region. I bet the White House doesn't want oil prices to go up before the election. Japan's deputy UN representative says, we fear the region is at the brink of an all-out war. So that's interesting. That's a Reuters article. I wonder if I have. I'm going to just let me check AFP and see if they're planning on covering that funeral. I'm going to check. So we'd be talking about Thursday, right? Okay, so I will have AFP says they are covering the memorial service for Haniyeh. And I can show it, but it's not going to be in English. It's not going to be in English. No, I already had AFP footage. I mean, I pay for it. But they have, they're rebroadcasting it. Yeah, I don't know that I would show that. I mean, it might just be like people talking in Arabic and we can't understand what they're saying. So we'll see. It's not going to be translated. I can tell you that. Okay. We want to see it, says Ready, Set, Mike. Hey, thanks, by the way, to Joseph Burke and Sweet Serendipity, new members, and T-Sky. T-Sky thinks the assassination was a message to Sinwar that he's next, creates pressure to release the hostages and agree to Israel's ceasefire deal. That's interesting, T-Sky. Maybe that's one of those articles was talking about when it said it was, maybe the idea was to create pressure on Hamas. Hey, Sean TV, that's so kind of you. Wow, very generous of Sean TV. Wow. Hey, thanks, Sean. That's so nice of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you also, Jarhead Gunny, for the new membership, and Clean 937 Samuel, and Eddie V, and Just Ginge, and David Spivak. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that Iran's going to respond. I do think that these two killings of one of them in Tehran and the other one of a Hezbollah commander, top Hezbollah commander, and Hezbollah is supported by Iran. It's like a Iranian proxy. And they're within hours of each other. And one's in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, and one's in Tehran, the capital of Iran, and they're both apparently done by Israel. I do think there's a chance that Iran is like, we are looking insanely weak. We need to do something to deter them because this is just ridiculous. And everybody's going to think we're weak, and they're really out of control. They're just doing whatever they want, and it's out of control, and we need to put a stop to this. So I don't know that they're going to say that, but I mean, this is two of these things within hours of each other. Like I said, it's really in their face. It's doing it in their face. And so, you know, they might feel that they need to do something to really deter. Like, it might not be a case where they're like, well, we need to do something just to show we're doing something. I do think the thought might be, this cannot go on like this. These people are acting with impunity. They think they can just do anything to us. So if they think that way, they're going to want to do something big. So do they really think that? The question is this going to really be intended as a deterrent to make Israel stop doing this? Cherry Sour says, very provocative for sure. The Lucky Minute says, depends on how embarrassed they are. Yeah, Ricardo says, Israel keeps playing with fire. I mean, it does. These are both very provocative. Done in Beirut and done in Iran, in Tehran, within hours of each other. And you're doing it in Iran at this event for their new president when they invite people from other countries. And you might not like those people, but they're having people there as guests, as their guests, to inaugurate their new president. And you target one of them in their bed or in their room, right in a state guest facility. I mean, just think about whatever country you live in. Imagine if somebody did that when your country's government was inaugurating its president, you know? So it's very provocative and it's very in your face. So I just don't know, you know, if Iran thinks that we need to put a stop to this and really deter it, then that is going to make them tend toward a more destructive, damaging response. Daniel think they looked weak with the April response. Oh, I'm sorry. By the way, I should have mentioned this. Yes, that's true. AEB points out that they would speak Persian in Iran, not Arabic. Very true. Although I don't know what I would think. Wouldn't Hamas speak Arabic and not Persian? Right? Right. So, you know, Palestinians speak mainly Palestinian Arabic. Oh, Farsi people are saying? Yeah, Persian is known as Farsi in Iran, as Boston University website says. Persian is also, yeah, Wikipedia says Persian language is also known as Farsi. But yeah, so that's a good question because the person who was killed was Haniyeh. So I wonder if they'll do stuff both in Arabic and Farsi. But thank you for reminding me about that with Iran. It's a good point. Dean R. says, my sister speaks Farsi and Arabic. Hold on a second here. All right, I think it might be time to maybe wrap up this stream. Yeah. I think it's time. So I certainly will be on the lookout for more developments here. And when stuff happens, I will bring you updates. And we'll go from there. So make sure you subscribe and follow the channel Agenda Free TV because there's more developments to come. Agenda Free TV. So subscribe and follow and turn on notifications. We have a notification system. It's free. We do it through Discord. It works awesome. You sign up for free and you get sent a notification whenever we go live. The mods will post the notifications link in the chat. Sign up for those notifications and subscribe and follow the channel. And you can also find the notifications link in the Facebook and YouTube description for this broadcast. But I really appreciate you guys tuning into our live coverage. And we will have certainly more coverage as things develop. And I also appreciate you guys sending me news updates and also letting me read your comments on the air and asking some good questions. So thanks for doing that. Yeah, we're going to have more coverage as things develop. Also, I will be posting stuff on my X account when I get updates when I'm not on the air. That is at Lookner on X. You can follow me there for breaking news updates at Lookner. I'll post a link to my X account. And I really appreciate our moderators. They are always here. They are fantastic. Shout out to our moderators. You guys are awesome. People like over there on YouTube, Sarah55, BZ, AJ, and all of our other YouTube moderators who have been there. Thank you so much. Linda Belk and Larry on X, on Twitch. People like Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, Good Luck Duck, I Got That Fire, McBritches, Papa Bear, and Surly Dev. And on Facebook, K. Lowry Body, Paul Anderson, Margaret Riley, Christina Neal. I think Bud Green might have been there. Hopefully I'm getting everybody. Thanks to all of our mods. You guys are awesome, and you allow us to have chat rooms, so big thanks to our moderators. And thanks to everybody who donated to the channel. I really appreciate that. You are the ones who allow this channel to exist. You are the ones who allow me to purchase news content. So it is thanks to you that I can do this and we can have this channel. So I really appreciate your support. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. Also, thanks to our Discord moderators too. And we have a Discord chat. You can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air. A lot of our viewers like doing that. It's free. Check it out. It's the same link as the notifications link. And if anybody's interested in being a volunteer moderator, that would be awesome. You can ask our moderators for more information about that. A quick reminder, if you are watching on YouTube and you subscribe on YouTube and you want to get notifications from YouTube, the YouTube notifications, you need to click the notifications bell and choose all notifications. I know that sounds weird. You need to click this bell and then choose all notifications. So do that on YouTube so you're getting all the notifications. Quick reminder, when the news settles down, I'll be doing some more of this. I have a non-news channel where I do non-news live streams. It's pretty chill. It's called Lookner on YouTube and Look Nerd with a D on Twitch. You can check that out if you like. Let me also thank our Facebook subscribers for all your support. People like K. Lowry Body. Ronald Agnew. Ronald was moderating. Thank you so much, Ronald. I appreciate that. Jane Summers, Eve Richards, Lou Green, Margaret Riley, Michael Clayton, Billy Joe Drage, Juster Singer. All of our other Facebook subscribers, big thanks to you. Also, our Twitch subscribers like Wall Street and Shaggy and James 54, Rocky Coast, Jane and Wheezy, Big Ball of Yarn, I Got That Fire, Gina Pina, Abondvi, Allistic, I'm a Silly Girl, and Integrity Farmer Bob, Sir Chexalot, and all of our other subscribers over there on Twitch. Thanks so much. Thanks to Kyle01 for the bits on Twitch. Thanks, Kyle. And Aaron Weirdo. Thanks for the on-screen celebration, or the message effect. And also Emilio, thanks for the on-screen celebration. Emilio1213, thank you. And all of our YouTube members like Katie Girl, Amra, Marla V, Lisa of the Lion, Marin Gobra, Sabin Nation, Marissa Pugliese, Joe Hart, Eric Johnson, Just Conscious Stardust, The Lucky Minute, Ingrid Perez, Cruella, Marla V, Sophie B, Bubba Twitcher, Kelly McAllen, Cherry Sour, Jan Haneke, Randy French, Jarhead Gunny, Amy, Earth Citizen, Nicholas Sprouse, Remy Storm, Ready Set Mike, What Say What, and Danny G, and all of our other YouTube members, thank you. And Joseph Burke. And thanks to our viewers like Deadwing and Amy, our member, and PK, and We Nesty, Citizen Z07, and Mary McDonald, and Diane Allworth, one of our subscribers, and all of our other viewers as well. All right, and Robert Kennedy and others. Okay, so as soon as I have more information on this, now why is this? Kay is saying Facebook is crazy. She can't even like post about the Discord in Facebook. Let me see if I can post the Discord address in Facebook. Maybe it won't even let me post my own Discord address in Facebook. Facebook's been acting very, very strange lately. One moment here. One moment here. Is it going to work for me or not? I bet it won't even let me post it in my own channel. Facebook is really messed up. It is really messed up. I don't think it's not. It let me post it. Why won't it let Kay post it? She's a moderator of the channel. It's so messed up. All right. Yeah, Board PC guy says Facebook is always messed up. All right, we're wrapping it up. Again, thank you for joining us. We have been giving you an update. As I mentioned, New York Times reports that Iran's supreme leader has ordered Iran to directly attack Israel in response for Israel's assassination of the Hamas political leader in Tehran early this morning. So, what is this? Okay. All right. So that is it for now. If there's big news tonight, I will come back on the air. And as soon, obviously, if there's any kind of sign of an attack from Iran or Hezbollah on Israel, we will cover that live. That is it for now. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.